Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of The Global Reality. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. This is the Monday, December 19th, 2016 edition of the broadcast. Thank you very much for being here. No video today, just doing audio, so welcome, everybody. Thanks so much. We're going to be getting into some various topics of discussion, as we always do in the show for you here. We'll get into some news, and I'll see if we've got anything in the mailbag. If you send me stuff, questions and whatnot, you send me stuff to talk about and discuss. If I don't get to it immediately, you got to understand, there are a lot of people who've asked questions up in front of you that I hadn't gotten to. So just be patient. It may take sometimes, maybe it might take weeks or a month or longer sometimes, but just be patient. I will get to you. And I do get your questions when you send them, and I do enjoy those. So you can always send me stuff you want to hear me talk about. globalrealityshow@gmail.com. TheGlobalReality.com is my website. We have not received a lot of support this month, and we really could use it, especially right here at the holidays. I don't even have, I can't even afford to buy gifts and stuff like that, because we just haven't got any support this month at all after covering the operating costs. We finally got our stuff to cover the internet last week, so just go to my website, theglobalreality.com, support our work in any way you can, folks. We had our fundraiser for the Spellcasters Volume 2 ended today, and we did not reach our goal. We're going to extend that through Christmas, and just put it out there, and hopefully Santa will bring us the rest of what we need for the creation of this film, because if we don't get it, I pushed it back. We really already need to have this funded about a month and a half ago, and we just haven't reached the goal. And if we're not able to reach the funding goal that we need on this to be able to create this film, then Volume 1 will end up being the last film that I've ever make, and I don't want it to be that way because I have tons more stuff to make films on. So that's what I'm that's all I want for Christmas this year. It's just that, really, the ability to be able to fund this film, because that's a bare bones budget. It's actually going to take more than that, but I've tried to keep it at the bare minimum for the fundraising efforts. But it's very difficult to make a film of this caliber, especially when you start getting to licensing stuff and all that. So again, just go there and support our work. Also check out our download shop right there in the middle of the page at my website, theglobalreality.com. It says download all Josh's documentaries here. There's lots of stuff in there. We've got audiobooks in there. We've got all my films, all my documentary films are in there. So go there and check that out. And also go to the subscribe button at the top right-hand side of the page and hit subscribe if you want to get a membership so you can stay current with all the shows. And when we got all our operating costs at the end of the month on time, I decided I was going to put a bunch of free shows out in the hopes that we would get more support. And I did that, and we haven't. So, it's just insane how many listens that our videos have been getting lately. We've had a 10-fold increase lately, yet we haven't had any increase in the contributions to our work and what we're trying to do here. So that makes it's frustrating, because when we have an increase like we're having right now, where so many more people emailing me and want my attention and my time and this, that, and the other, and I'm answering so many emails. So it's it's all this much more work, but we're not getting an increase in our work, and we're still, left here wondering if we're even going to be able to get our next film out. It's just not a good place for us to be at. So again, please direct all in available resources, especially those lots of you out there that are listening and haven't contributed anything. This is the time of year when we got to have your support in order to be able to take things into the next level for next year with all the work we're going to be having into year 10 of broadcasting, and the new films and everything out there. Anyway, so we're going to extend that fundraiser so that we can hopefully get the rest of what we need in here. Because I wanted to have the film out by the end of the year, but that put the kibosh, got the kibosh put on it because of the lack of funding. And then, was hoping maybe to get out by March. And if we get it fully funded in the next week, we're looking at like March or April, I think, at the earliest, to be able to get that film done. But this thing is going to be, if you thought Volume 1 of the Spellcasters was crazy, you hadn't seen anything yet for what's going to be in this. Absolutely insane. We have got, let's see what we got to care. This is funny. I had a funny question come in. I don't think I've ever been asked this question by anybody in my life. This is a hilarious fucking question. And I don't even know how it's relevant to what I talk about and what I do here, but I'll answer it anyway just because it's so off the wall to me. Really. As soon as I saw this email, I was like, I don't think I've ever been asked that question. I don't think I've ever had to think about how I would answer that question. I don't know. Maybe it's Donald Trump being president now. I don't know. Maybe it's because of that. I don't know. It just seems an odd question. Hi, Josh. I'm a new listener. I started listening to you recently after hearing you on the Richie from Boston show. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I think I'm supposed to be going back on there soon. Just curious, not really a question that has to do with most of the things that you talk about here on your show, but just curious as to what your favorite racial slur is. Thanks. That's it? My favorite racial slur? That's an odd fucking question. Only in a Donald Trump presidency, I guess, would I have to answer that question. Favorite racial slur? That never had to think about that. Well, first off, I don't use racial slurs. I just use dumbass and cocksucker and motherfucker and shithead and cocknocker and fucking dick clamp, and I mean, those are terms I use, and I can apply those to anyone and everyone across the board, where black, white, red, brown, green, male, female, trans, doesn't matter, one of those, fuck lock, dick snap, whatever. I mean, there's tons of those ones. So generally, that's what I do. I don't generally, if I'm, there's just no, my hate doesn't, like if somebody, if I'm walking down the street and some guy like, almost runs me over or something, I'm going to be like, you motherfucker. I'm not going to be like, wait, what color is that guy? I can't see. Whatever color you are, fuck you. You know what I'm saying? It's just a general thing. But so, yeah, I don't have one of those as far as, one I would use, but see, here's the thing. Racial slurs in the context of using them for, hate or whatever else is wrong. But racial slurs in the context of comedy, which are not used or intended to be hateful or like that, could be fucking hilarious. So see, there's that's kind of it's not an easy question to answer because I never thought I'd have to answer it. So I can do that for you. I can tell you what racial slurs I think are fucking hilarious. How about that? How about I do that for you? Now, bear in mind before I say these, before you hear these words come out of my mouth, understand that I'm answering this. First off, I'm answering this question for this gentleman, and I don't want to say his name, but I'm answering this. Let's just call him Bob. I'm answering this question for Bob. And he asked me what my favorite racial slur was. And again, I don't have one for that, but there are some I think are fucking funny, and I will tell you about that. I do have something to say on that subject. Uh, I'll do like my top three. How about how about that? Let me think. What are my top three? Let me think about it for a second. Top three. I got two right off the bat. Oh no, I remember the third one. Okay, so did you guys see that movie, The Revenant, with Leonardo DiCaprio? If you haven't seen that movie, check it out. There's a scene towards the beginning of the movie where they're like going down. They're like fur trappers and stuff, and they're like going down this river in this boat, and there's Indians, Native Americans up in the tree shooting arrows down at the fur trappers and, picking them off. So they fire back and, wipe them out or whatever, and they keep going. And there's like a guy in the boat, right, with Leonardo DiCaprio and the rest of them, and one of the Weasley brothers from Harry Potter. And so they're going down this boat, and the guy, I guess he's got like a, I don't know whether he has a telescope or something. He's like a spotter. He's like, Captain, we got more tree niggers down here waiting on us. I was like, what was he talking? He's talking about he called them, got some more tree niggers down here. Tree niggers. That made me lose my shit. I fucking laughed. I had to like pause the goddamn movie and I just laughed. That kind of shit is funny to me. It's fucking hilarious. I'm sorry, that shit, when it's not, if nobody's hurting anybody's feelings or trying to be hateful towards somebody, man, it could be fucking funny sometimes. Makes me wonder who the fuck comes up with these things. And it reminded me of something I saw when I was like, I don't know, my early 20 or 21 years old. I may have been just barely 21. I may not have even been 21 years old yet. I was in a bar, but that didn't mean nothing. I drank at bars where I was 21. I was probably around 21, but I hadn't thought of this in years. In that Revenant movie, that comment, when I was laughing at that, because I just had never heard that expression before. I'd never heard, because it just makes no sense. But that reminded me of something else I saw one time, very similar, that made me laugh so hard because it didn't make any sense. I was in this bar, I was like 20, 21 years old, something like that. And I'm going to the urinal and I'm like taking a piss and I got my cock in my hand and I'm standing there and like, kind of like half buzzed or whatever, half drunk. And some of these, sometimes when you go in these restrooms, excuse me, there's stuff people scrawl on the wall, for a good time. 8675309, whatever. Just fucking random shit. Whoever fucking sucks dick and fucking, John's a ball licker and whatever else is up there, and I don't really pay much attention. I was kind of standing there, I'm doing my business, and I see this thing scrolling over the wall, and like I said, I was half buzzed. I looked over and I was like, what does that say? And, back then this is the Stone Ages, this is 20 fucking years ago. So there weren't any camera phones or shit like that back then. So I was sitting there and I was like, what does that say? I saw this thing scrawling because it was like a lot. I looked at it and I was like, that does not say what it. I looked at Reddy and oh my God. I came out of the bathroom. I was like red faced and like, I was just like dying laughing. My friends are like, what's up? What's up? What? I was like, man, y'all see what's on the fucking wall in there in the bathroom? Like, no, what is it? Like, man, I can't even fucking say. I was just losing it. I couldn't even talk. I could barely talk. I'm like, you got to go in this, like the second stall on the left, and it's on the right. Just look over. You'll see it. I don't even have to tell you what it is. You'll know what it is as soon as you see it. You'll know what the fuck I'm talking about. Go there and look. Goes in there. My friend goes in, walks in there. He comes out the same way. Red face, crying. He's losing it. And another friend of ours is like, okay, I got to go see this. See for myself. He goes in there. He looks, same reaction. So we're all like, we're starting to like be loud. I think people there were probably starting to think we were getting loaded. It wasn't even that. We barely, we were totally toasted, but this is what it said. It said, I'll never forget this. It said, niggers are proof Indians fucked buffaloes. I mean, some flawless logic there on whoever cooked that one up. Wow. It's so flawless. Like, I mean, it made me laugh so hard because it's so ridiculous. You know what I mean? That, like, the goddamn funniest thing. And I hadn't thought of that in years. And when I was watching that Revenant movie and I heard, Captain, we got some tree niggers down here. They're Indians. Oh my God. So again, that shit is funny to me. I'm sorry. Especially when it's racial slurs with wrapped in ignorance. Oh man. Oh God, that's funny. It is funny. Oh God, that is fucking. I'm being really restrained right now because I'm doing really good, honestly. Most of the time, just the mere just the mere thought. See, I'm starting. Just the mere thought of seeing that scrawl on the fucking bathroom wall. I'll never forget. That was the most epic thing I've ever seen. I was like, man, because every manner of thing ran through my head. We must have talked about that shit, me and my friends, for weeks after that. Just going over everything, like, what was going on in that dude's head? What made him think that was the place to right then and there? Oh my God, it's so funny. Okay, so that's number 3. Number two, here's another. This is another one. This one is actually one that I overheard someone say. I don't think it wasn't a family member, but I think it was some years ago. It was somewhere like a family gathering thing. Some of the stuff that my relatives used to have down there in deep East Texas. Sometimes you go to some of these things, and sometimes there's people there that are your family members. Sometimes there aren't. People who married in or whatever. But anyway, I heard one somewhere like that. It may not have been there. It's somewhere else, but somewhere when I was in somewhere where there's a lot of rednecks. That's all I know. I that's where I was at, and it was out in the sticks. And there was some conversation with some old folks or 2 old guys, and they were talking about the war in Iraq, and talking about 9/11 and goddamn Arabers come over here, and we'll have to go over there and find them over there. That usual shit, right? And in the middle of it, when I was like, well, if I didn't have to worry about them Dune coons, I wouldn't even care. And like, I overheard that, and I was like, what did he say? And one of his buddies, I guess, was on the same wavelength as me. He, like, in the middle of his rant, he like stopped me. He's like, wait, what'd you say? I said, what are you talking about? He said, what'd you say a minute ago? You said you can't, something about them Dune coons? Yeah, Dune coons, man, motherfucking Dune coons. Sand niggers, man, Dune coons, sand dunes, Dune coons. That was another one. I was like, I lost my shit. Dune coons. Dune coons. I guess that's what they call Arabs. Arabers. Dirty damned Arabers. Dune coons. That made me lose my shit. I was like, Dune coons? Oh man. That is just again the wonderful thought behind that. And then the third one, the number one funniest one for me ever, moon crickets. That's the all. See, this is when I can't even. I'm trying to keep it together here, but seriously, this is enough to initiate moon crickets. That's the first time I fucking heard that. I lost my fucking shit. That was the goddamn funniest thing I'd ever fucking heard in my life. Moon crickets. All racial slurs are funny. They're all funny, like honky, calling white folks honky or cracker. Boy, neither one of those they're fucking hilarious. Cracker. I've never gotten mad if anyone's ever called me a cracker or a honky or it's funny to me. I think all of it's funny. Some of them are just downright hilarious, but moon crickets, man, that is so funny to me. Like, really, was there really a time when people would go up to black people and literally call them moon crickets? Well, you're just a moon cricket. Well, you're just a honky motherfucker. Whatever, moon. And then I found out where it came from. It was fascinating to find out where it came from, because it goes back, of course, to the plantation days. And after the massa would go to bed at night, the slaves would all go out to the barns and whatever, and they would go out there and play music and stuff. This is when they would have like their kind of private time, and these kind of things was what later on it continued on into the 20th century, and this is what became predominantly in the South known as juke joints and stuff like that. It was the same kind of thing. This is after slavery had ended, but the tradition still continued, and they would still go at night, late at night, in these dance halls and stuff, and that's where rock and roll was born, man. That's where the combination of like spiritual music, gospel music, and stuff with blues music and black music. That's really where it came from. But the moon cricket thing, yeah, that's what they do. They go out there and play music at night. So I guess because they, crickets at night, they sing and they have music and they do it at night. That's what they start calling them moon crickets, because they would go out and play music all night and wake the slave owner up while he's sleeping up in the plantation up there with Mammy. And he'd holler out the window, "You goddamn moon crickets, shut up. Damn moon crickets." Moon crickets. That's fucking hilarious to me. How anybody could use that and think that that's going to hurt somebody's feelings. Like, really? Moon cricket? That's the best you got? It's just fucking funny. It's hilarious. I don't know any other ones other than that I think are that funny. Although if I heard one, I could tell you whether I thought it was funny or not. But anyway, Bob, I'm not going to say your real name, but Bob, whoever you are, that's a fucked up question. And that's the only reason I answered it, because it was so fucked up. Because I like that sometimes. I like off the wall weird shit like that. That's fucking hilarious. But yeah, I don't know why you'd want to know that. Favorite racial star. Yeah, I still have to say though, that bathroom thing, that was probably the all-time funny. I mean, it's just one of those things you're just not even, when you're not in the headspace of thinking of something like that, and you just see I'll never forget it. What was going through that dude's head? Oh man, and what was going through your head, dude? Why are you hung up on racial slurs? No, I mean seriously. If they're not used, I think if they're not used in, it can be used in a comedic fashion. You ever seen? I'll give you a great example of that in the movie. This is another one that just makes me lose my shit every time. Is in the movie Half Baked, and I think it was the actor Harlan Williams, I think is his name. And he's feeding this police horse. He's like, walks up this police horse and he's like feeding it. And he's like, "Say, girl, you hungry?" And right as he says, "Say, girl, you hungry?" This big old black girl comes walking by right at the exact moment when he says, "Say, girl, you hungry?" And she just turns around and goes, "Fuck you, nigga." I mean, it's hilarious. That kind of shit is funny, and it's funny to me. Like the old TV show The Jeffersons. There's an episode. Oh, it's so classic. And when I was, I don't know, 7th or 8th grade, I had a friend. I'm still friends with him to this day. But I think when we first like hooked up and became friends, we bonded over the fact that we were the only two people who'd ever seen this episode of of the Jeffersons. You remember the Jeffersons? Well, moving on up. And that was the whole thing with them. They, listen to the theme song. I mean, they came to the ghetto and then they're moving on up, and they're living in the big high-rise apartment with the white folks and all that. And they got money now. And so there's this episode where George Jefferson buys their son this expensive watch, and like, "Yeah, show your mom the watch." It's like, "Oh yeah, that's so nice." How much did it cost? And she's just, she's talking all plain, and that's such a nice watch. How much does that cost? And George is like $500, and she immediately goes from all nice and talking, upper class, to immediately the ghetto comes out in her. In Louise Jefferson, immediately, and she just goes, "What? $500 for a watch? Nigga, please." And you could literally hear the studio audience, like the microphones distort, because the studio audience just absolutely comes unglued when she says this. And it's funny now that has been completely scrubbed and taken out of any and all repeats of that show anywhere in syndication, anywhere in the world. Yet it was genius and comedically funny and worked and no one was offended by it in the 1970s. But now we live in this PC world where it's not okay to laugh at that, even though there was nothing in it that was, hateful at all. But somehow we've got to censor that now. And that kind of thing to me is just it's so ridiculous, because that's the way that you take power back from stuff that's been used to, for negative purposes. Take it back, own it, make fun of it. That's why I make fun of so much stuff. I learned that lesson very early on in doing this stuff. That's why everything that I have ever done, I always put something, if you specifically in my films, you may or may not have noticed this, but in every one of my films, I continue it to this day. There's at least one little thing. Sometimes it's kind of hard to find. Sometimes it's, only for a half a second. But I always put something, at least one little thing in each one of my films that's funny. And about a month or so ago, I was thinking about that, about the different things that I've put in there, in the movies that are funny. Because, I learned a long time ago, you got to, this stuff is so fucking serious and so, it can be overwhelming. I mean, it's just so, ugh. So it's been important for me for a very long time to laugh at this stuff and make fun of this stuff. And it definitely never, takes away and is never taken away from how serious I take the work. But you folks, if you don't take a step, I mean, that's what a lot of these, a lot of these people that I've exposed and a lot of these phony truthers and whatnot, that's exactly what they're there to do, man, to get you wrapped up and get you so nerved out about this stuff that you do something crazy and stupid. Because as I've talked about this a million times on this show, all the fear sauce that Jones puts out and all that fear-based truth-telling is there and designed so that you're not thinking rationally, so that you're thinking and reacting strictly on an emotional level, thereby limiting your ability to be able to process and understand the deeper levels of information that you will eventually be presented with if you pay attention to this stuff long enough. And that's what they're designed to do. So I've always tried to put little things and have, sometimes I think I just have to make fun of this stuff. It's hilarious. But crazy and prophetically, because next year, 2017, September 2017, will be the 10-year anniversary of the beginning of this show and also the 10-year anniversary of the release of my first film, 9/11 New World Rising. And I started that tradition in 2007 in that film. And yes, indeed, I did have one little thing in that film that was funny and would make you laugh. And I can't take credit for this and say that I 100% saw it coming. But I can say that there was something, I don't know what it was, to this day I can't tell you. There was something like a inner voice or a sixth sense or something that told me to put this clip in the film. And I'd forgotten about it until recently when I was like, what was that thing that I first put in the very first film that was funny? And then I remembered it and went, oh my God. I put in my first film, 9/11 New World Rising, the clip of Rudy Giuliani dressed in drag with tits, getting his fake titties and his ass grabbed and shit and motorboated, straight up motorboated, dude. You know what motorboating is? Where you fucking stick your fucking face right in a big old pair of gazongas and go. That's what Donald Trump did to Rudy Giuliani's fake breasts. He motorboats his fake titties. I remember at the time, because after I watched it back one time, why the fuck did I put that in there? And then I remembered, it was, making fun of Giuliani and the rest of it. Man, wow. I mean, considering what I've uncovered now and, watching the stuff that's in the spellcasters, and then you go back and realize I had that clip of, because, since we've heard, grab her in the pussy and all this, there's proof right there. Hey, I had to prove Donald Trump's a sexual deviant as far back as 2007. I was exposing that. There he is, motorboating Giuliani's fucking tits. Oh my God. I was just like, wow. That's fucking crazy that I had, I don't contribute or attribute that to my own really putting that. There was something that told me, I remember it. There was some kind of inner voice or some kind of like sixth sense. I can't describe it. There was something that said, put that clip in the film. And it did. He got a laugh, but wow, I never dreamed it would have been as prophetic as it has become now. Because the likelihood of us having another 9/11 is happening during the Trump presidency, very, very high. Very, very high. And it's going to be way worse, both in terms of scope and the scale of it, and also in terms of how it will become a cottage industry for the phony truthers, Alex Jones, that whole crowd, and anything running contrary to that information will just be chalked up to quote unquote fake news or the liberal agenda or anything else. This is why it's so whatever the next 9/11 type of event that happens in this country, and I believe it's going to happen in 2017. Again, I don't get into the business very often making predictions. I just tell you what I see based on what the evidence presents and how long I've been looking at this stuff and what the indicators are. But that's what I see happening. There's going to be, and again, this is why it's important that I remain here and why I'm able to, for my work to continue, folks, because it's not about what's happening right now. It's it's about what's about to happen. And with so many people who have gone full bore over to the Trump side, there's going to be very few voices that are going to be breaking down these events and explaining them and really getting to the real truth of it. Because that's what they love to do. They love to create these cottage industries of disinfo around these different events. They did it with JFK first. They've done it with Roswell. They've done it with 9/11. Because this is how it's cognitive dissonance. This is how they continue the disinfo. They love, contrary to popular belief, the government loves conspiracy theories. And oftentimes the CIA has cooked up their own and put them out there if one doesn't exist. They love them because in their mind, that strengthens the original narrative. Because all they have to say is, well, this is the official story, and anything outside of that is kook, crack, whack, nuts, so they love it. They don't feel that kind of stuff challenges them at all. People say, oh, well, if what so-and-so said is true, then that person would be dead, or they would come. No. That's such, I see so many people who've never done this type of work themselves, who sit on the sidelines and don't do anything, And they're always the first people to say that. They act like if somebody isn't dead, then their info isn't correct, because if their info was correct, they'd be dead. And that's such a retarded, uninformed, dumbass way of looking at things. So everybody who's not dead is a liar. I mean, there are people out there that fucking believe that. And it's just again, it's another way for them to be able to try and downplay certain pieces of information. So yeah, I absolutely think that it's going to get very, very interesting very, very soon, and it's going to become increasingly difficult for people to, like it isn't hard already, but it's going to become increasingly difficult for people to know what's the truth and what isn't, because there are more active agents than there ever have been right now who are actively, more than ever, trying to confuse people about the real truth of things. There are more than there ever have been. And I've seen it on the increase in the past year around the rise of Donald Trump and the whole lock, stock, and barrel end of it that I cover in my new film, The Spellcasters. Again, if you haven't seen the film, go to my website, theglobalreality.com, and get yourself a download. We're getting very close to having the artwork done. The artist is still working on it, but he's getting very close. He sent me some rough drafts a couple of days ago. It's finally starting to come together. And I think it's finally going to look the way that that I had envisioned it to look, and I'm very excited about that. So, again, you can go and pre-order your DVDs and Blu-rays if you haven't done that yet. Still available to pre-order. Let me see what else we got here. Let's slide over to the news. New evidence reveals violent final days at Arizona's Montezuma's Castle. It's one of Arizona's most famous landmarks, a pair of 900-year-old limestone cliff dwellings whose sudden abandonment centuries ago has proven to be one of the Southwest's most enduring mysteries. New evidence suggests that the site, now part of Montezuma's Castle National Monument, was not simply evacuated by its inhabitants, as archaeologists have believed for more than 80 years. Instead, recent research shows that its final days were likely fraught with violent conflict and death. Yeah, I went there. 2014, I shot footage at Montezuma's Castle for hopefully what eventually will be the Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 3, if we ever get the funding we need for that. And yeah, it's it's those big cliff dwellings way up there, and the one of the things when you go and see these cliff dwellings is the thing that becomes clear because of where they're at and everything else is that there was something on the ground. There was something on the ground that they were trying to get away from by building those dwellings in that area, because this only happened. The interesting thing is those dwellings like that were only built during a certain time period and were never done before or after. And when we went out there, that's one thing we kept looking at was like, these people they didn't just build those up there for no reason, man. They were hiding from something down here. There was something that was, a different type of predator that was not indigenous to this landscape was here for a period of time, terrorizing people, and it looks like eventually, it won. That's why so many of these things look like they were just abandoned and the people just left. Of course, there's all the speculation about aliens and abductions and the rest of that stuff, but in that, that's but one scenario, but one possibility. But what I noticed was that the proximity of rock art that depicted, strange creatures and stuff like that. Yeah, there was definitely something there. Upcoming supermoon is set to tip people over the edge and make Christmas a potential battleground. Psychic claims. Oh, that's interesting. Supermoons are not unusual. We get several a year, but it is unusual to have 3 in a row and to have them at the end of the year and at the end of a 9 cycle. There are a lot of stress in the ether and a lot of pent-up emotions built up over time. People have to tighten the reins on their tongues, otherwise feelings might come out all over the place. The psychic also warned that the third supermoon could make Christmas a battleground, especially when people carry out their Christmas shopping. I've been wondering if there's going to be something go down on Christmas this year, like some kind of, stage terror attack or something. So, increase in supermoons and, of course, the, winter solstice, all that stuff. Huge mysterious UFO disc-shaped object captured crossing the moon's surface was an alien ship, says ET hunters. I saw something like that twice with my own eyes. I saw something go across the sky. It was out of the atmosphere, and it was like as big as the sun or as big as the moon. It was just this huge black disc, and it was right at sunset, right when the sun was going down, and I saw it streak across the sky, and you could tell that this thing wasn't streaking across the sky in Earth's atmosphere. It was streaking it was just really close to Earth. This round circular disc. I saw it and I flipped out. And then I saw it again on another occasion. And the first time was in Oklahoma, the second time was in Texas. But and I've seen this more and more. And of course, we've seen these black discs appear around the sun. I covered that in my Reality of Illusion series, The Secrets of the Sun, where I show this footage of these, black discs coming up to the sun with these funnel spouts and appear to be draining energy from them. And there's been some of those caught recently, again, doing that. And then you combine this with the solar cycles and, solar minimums and how the sun seems to be, apparently, according to scientists, the sun is going dormant. And I've wondered if it definitely could be possible that some force is attempting to, this is my opinion. This is just opinion. Just the lack of anybody talking about this has made me wonder about it. If people were talking everywhere and it was all over ancient aliens and stuff, I probably wouldn't be very concerned with it. But I just haven't seen anybody even putting forth the theory that it's possible that these things are actually putting our sun into a premature dormant cycle in order to accelerate extinctions on planet Earth. Because I just don't think it's a coincidence that you see something going, and we have video footage of these black discs going to the sun with little siphons and sucking stuff out of it like a spout. And then, next thing you know, we're having all this insane, almost ice age-like cooling going on, and yet, meanwhile, the bought and paid for phony climate scientists are still telling us that the Earth's getting hotter. Something's rotten in Denmark, for sure. And I think a lot of this phony climate stuff has a lot to do with the with whatever this is, whatever it may be. Maybe it's not aliens. Maybe it's, secret NASA black programs or something. Maybe the powers that be are attempting to send the Earth or the sun rather into a premature aging cycle. We know they want to go off Earth and leave us all down here to rot anyway. So I guess my point is it could be extraterrestrials and maybe it's not, though. People always want to jump to one conclusion or the other instead of, again, as I mentioned earlier, thinking rationally and thinking with logical thinking instead of just acting strictly on emotions. And so many people want certain things to fit into their new paradigm that, they glob onto things sometimes that really aren't connected at all. You have to be very careful and learn not to do that. But again, that's where the rational thinking opposed to the emotional thinking comes into play. Anybody go see Star Wars this weekend? I sure as fuck didn't. Have all that. Sorry. You can have all that shit. You can have all that. Yeah, I had somebody get butthurt with me because I put a thing out on Facebook over the weekend. And to save me from having to, go on another rant about this, I'll just read you what I wrote. I put fucking Star Wars. What a shit show that's turned into. Notice how the two newest ones, the good guys, are a multicultural mix with a woman as the hero and the Empire are all white males. Way to alienate the very people that built your franchise, asshats. I'm not saying women as heroes or being multicultural is bad at all, but to turn Star Wars into a vehicle for your agenda is inexcusable. And I had somebody leave a comment, which I thought was funny. I actually used to know this person a long time ago. And he says, Star Wars has always been about diversity. Just because this time it was all human diversity instead of humans mixed with aliens makes no difference. And whining about a movie being more inclusive just shows your small-mindedness and bigotry. Now, wait a minute. I didn't say anything about him. Wait. Whining about a movie being more inclusive? Now, wait a minute. You contradicted yourself because you just said at the beginning of your statement that Star Wars has always been about diversity. Then you said it in the second sentence, now that I'm whining about it being more inclusive. Now, which one is it? You can't say that I'm whining about something being more inclusive when you just said it's always been inclusive since the very beginning. Again, not a leg to stand on. Done following the shows, it's become nothing but the worst conspiracy tripe put forth. And that would be, I'm not going to say this person's name. I'm sure he'll listen to see who I'm talking about. But I will tell you what I do know about this person, because he was like a friend of some friends at one time. I'll just say this. I wouldn't expect anything less than that statement coming from a Jew who has high-level Freemasons in his family. Drop mic. Peace. Yeah, I dropped the motherfucking mic on that one. Now, I wouldn't expect anything from a Jew with Freemasons in his family to defend Juju Jar Jar Abrams and Disney's Freemasonic shit show. And it is a shit show. Fuck Star Wars. That's the thing. Star Wars never had agendas. It never had an agenda in the beginning towards anything. It shouldn't start now. Anyway, that's all I got to say about Star Wars. It can fucking lick my nads. certain people out there. Yeah, and fuck the Beatles too. Oh, that's another one I'll give for this guy. He's obsessed with the Beatles and couldn't make it on his own, playing his own music, so now he just plays Beatles covers. Hey, the fucking Beatles were fucking phonies and frauds too, dude. They didn't write any of their shit. They were put together by the Tavistock Institute, and all their songs are written by other people. It's completely fucking utterly false. They replaced Paul McCartney with a fucking double because they didn't want their cash cow to go out the window. It's a fact. It's an absolute fact. That's why they had Aleister Crowley. They did this body switching ritual. They took him down to Africa and did this thing. I mean, I haven't been able to put all the ties. It has something to do with Aleister Crowley and something to do with his, I think with the same sort of soul cracking techniques that the Scientologists employed. But yeah, there's a reason why Aleister Crowley is on the cover of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper album, not once but twice. And it's also why right around the time when the original Paul McCartney supposedly died, you had all of a sudden around that time is when all of a sudden nobody in the band wanted to work with Paul anymore. And then they bring in Yoko, of course, to direct the attention away from why they were really breaking up. And if you know this and you go back and watch the Beatles film Let It Be, it becomes very clear what's going on. They were all sworn to secrecy, and if any of them ever said anything about it, they'd be killed. And John Lennon dropped hints all over the place. All over the place. And the song, How Do You Sleep? That's him calling out the fake Paul right there. Right then and there. I'm not going to get into all that, but it'll probably be in one of my films eventually, but it's kooky and crazy, as far-fetched as it sounds. It's absolutely true. They had multiple Paul. There wasn't just more that people just say, oh, he was replaced. No, there was a picture of him where there's like three of the different fake Pauls sitting there. Go look it up, man. Their ears are different. Many, many years ago, this is 30, 40 years ago. I mean, some of this stuff has been around for years. Listen to the what was the first record, I guess, that the fake Paul was on? I guess it was the White Album. And you can hear, that's when you hear the shift and the change in the vocal timbre of the original Paul with the new one. And those first White Album songs that you hear, that's the first album that the replacement Paul sings on. And you can hear, especially on a song like Rocky Raccoon, listen to Rocky Raccoon and then go back and just go to the album before, go back and listen to I Will off of, Rubber Soul or something. But they've actually literally put both the voices in, clearly, I mean, there has been audio engineers who, you can see it, it's two different people. When you put the original McCartney's voice through a spectroscope and then you put the other one through it, you can see in the lines that it's not the same voice. They've done all sorts of voice recognition analysis on his voice. Actually, they've discovered that there's somewhere between not just two, there are at least 3 and 4 other unidentifiable voices on Beatles recordings and later Paul McCartney recordings. So they didn't just have one of him, they had multiples. And, of course, just like when I talked about the Ike stuff, the fact of the matter is, it's not my fault. It is not my fault or my problem or my issue that you refuse to see the truth and the real truth. What is? Some people just want the truth up to a certain point. They don't want the whole truth. What I give is the whole truth, and I'm one of the few people that's willing to go to the places where nobody else will go. Because in order to have real truth, you got to throw away your heroes. You got musical heroes. You got movie heroes, you got to throw all that out the window, because let me tell you, I can probably shatter it for you real quick. You got to do away with that. The hero worship stuff, it's got to go out the window. You got to throw it away. You got to lose that, or you're never going to be able to understand the truth the way you need to understand it. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there. Oh, they're fine. They're fine with you exposing everybody, but then you expose David Icke, and then they get all butthurt. Same thing with the Star Wars thing. There are people who have no problem with you exposing everything under the sun, but boy, you touch Star Wars, that's sacrilege. Or touch the Beatles, expose the Beatles. Oh, that's sacrilege. You got to throw that away. If there's anything like that that's sacred to you, and it causes a unwillingness to see the truth that's in front of you because of your love or worship of it, Star Wars, Beatles, whatever it may be, you got to throw that away. You got to throw that away. Otherwise, it is going to work against you, and it's not going to serve you. And when it comes to this type of information and trying to understand it, wrap your mind around it, you have to lose anything that doesn't serve you. It's just the way it is. Or you're never going to be able to get to the bottom of it. You just won't be able to grasp it and comprehend it. There's a lot of levels to this. Problem is, everybody is at a different level of understanding. So certain pieces of information are only going to make sense to you in the context of what you know up to this point. Now, as you learn more, eventually things that sounded kooky or crazy to you you'll start to see how they're possible and how they're true. Because, again, when you're weighing it against only the things that you know right now, and you don't have all of the whole big picture, it becomes much more difficult to. And again, this is something they bank on. They bank on the absolute utter disbelief. That's what they bank on. All right, we're going to leave it there, folks. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and being here with us. TheGlobalReality.com is my website. Go there and support our work. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care.